Krai Andrey promised his friends he'd be the greatest treasure hunter, but reality had other plans. As his friends become legendary, Krai, well, he's mastered the fine art of begging for his life. Watch the rise of their greed in Krai's desperate bid for retirement. The story begins with our main protagonist, Krai, and his 5 friends. They dream of becoming treasure hunters, one day exploring treasure vaults around the world and gaining riches and glory. Krai's friends are excited and ready to pursue this dream, but while they all step forward, Krai hesitates, looking confused. The scene shifts to a rainy day in the future where we see Krai as a grown young man. He's on his way to an interview to become a treasure hunter. Those who risk their lives fighting monsters called phantoms and explore treasure vaults to collect valuable relics. As Krai approaches the queue, waiting for his turn to be interviewed, he notices 2 soldiers entering the building ahead of him. He feels a pang of sadness, regretting that he doesn't possess any special skills or abilities. Suddenly, a girl calls out to him from behind. She introduces herself as Rutuda Runbeck, a level 3 hunter. Krai introduces himself as Krai Andrey, but awkwardly refuses to shake the hand she offers. Rutuda, unfazed, redirects the conversation to the large crowd gathered for the interview. Their conversation is interrupted when a man rudely mocks Rutuda for joining the White Wolf's den at level 3, calling her an amateur. Krai quietly steps back, avoiding the brewing conflict. As the argument escalates, Rutuda pulls out her knife, ready to fight, but a soldier steps in, stopping them before a confrontation breaks out. The soldier warns that if they fight, they'll lose their chance to join the clan. Both Rutuda and the man suddenly burst into laughter, claiming it was all a joke. Uninterested in their antics, Krai quietly slips away. Afterward, we see Krai and Rutuda inside the building. Rutuda is in awe as she spots several hunters around and excitedly remarks that she's never seen anything like this before. Krai, however, casually responds that it's his 5th time here. Rutuda then asks Krai about a flashy group of people at a party, to which Krai explains that they are members of Arcbrave, an elite group that completed a level 7 treasure vault with just 6 members. He points out their leader, Rodin. Rutuda then notices an empty desk beside Arcbrave's table and asks about it, but Krai remains silent. Suddenly, the same man who previously argued with Rutuda shows up. He introduces himself as Greg Hunter, a level 4 hunter. Greg starts talking about the clan that occupies the empty desk, calling them Grievers. Krai, in his thoughts, reveals that Grievers is a group of young hunters who came to the capital a few years ago. We are introduced to the 5 members of Grievers, whom Krai quietly refers to as his childhood friends. Rutuda points to another corner, where Greg explains that the hunters there are solo hunters, and adds that it's the first time Grievers are accepting new members into their clan. Suddenly, a commotion breaks out. A boy wielding a huge sword is loudly proclaiming himself the strongest and hurling insults at everyone. A black-haired girl named Tenno steps forward, challenging him to a duel. Just as things heat up, a man intervenes, calling the boy an idiot, which only angers him further. Greg, ever the instigator, tries to fuel the conflict, causing the room to clear as the duel is about to begin. Tenno confidently prepares for battle. Krai, sensing danger, urges Rutuda to escape before the duel gets deadly. As the crowd eagerly watches the 2 participants prepare to fight, Tenno suddenly senses something odd. Glancing around, she spots Krai quietly slipping out from behind the crowd. The duel begins, and the boy charges at Tenno, but she dodges his attack with ease, only to find herself face to face with Krai, who stumbles and falls to the floor. Surprised, Tenno asks Krai what he's doing here and addresses him as Master leaving Rutuda and everyone else stunned. We are then introduced to Krai's past. In the golden age of treasure hunters, one man stood above the rest, Krai Andrey, leader of a renowned party made up of his childhood friends. The scene shifts to Krai's childhood. He and his friends are exploring a treasure vault when Krai is nearly killed by a monster. Just as it's about to strike, one of his friends defeats it with a single blow. Everyone assumes Krai was acting as bait, and they start praising him for his bravery. However, Krai knows the truth. He feels he has the least talent compared to the rest of his friends. This realization leads him to plan his departure from the party. One day, Krai calls a meeting with the intention of announcing his retirement, but before he can say anything, his friends surprise him by unanimously deciding to make him their leader. Krai is shocked, and from that day forward, he unwillingly becomes the leader of the group, a role gifted to him by his friends. His plan to leave the party vanishes completely. The scene shifts back to the present, where Greg and Rutuda are stunned to learn that Krai is the leader. Rodin, surprised and slightly irritated, insults Krai, sarcastically asking if he was late due to oversleeping. Tenno steps in, defending her master, and orders Krai to remove Rodin's name from the roster for disrespecting him. We are then properly introduced to Tenno Shade, an apprentice of Krai's childhood friend, Liz. Rodin questions Krai about whether he has found any good candidates, to which Krai confidently replies that he already has enough members on his team. However, Krai then challenges Rodin to let him add a new member, choosing from the crowd. Rodin agrees. Tenno steps forward, insisting that Krai give his own name to Rodin, but Krai remains focused on the crowd. where two boys are fighting for the open spot. Krai stops them and asks the red-haired boy for his name. The boy introduces himself as Gilbert. Krai admits he's not good at judging people and decides to leave the selection to chance. He stands up and declares Gilbert's name under one condition, that he must not lose no matter what. Krai then removes a ring from his finger and announces that whoever manages to deliver the ring to Rodden will be selected for the team. He tosses the ring into the air. As Gilbert catches it, Tino swiftly steps forward and delivers a powerful knee strike to his jaw, sending him crashing into the bartender's counter. Chaos ensues as everyone starts fighting for the ring. Krai, unfazed, steps aside and wishes them luck before casually slipping out through the back door. The building is completely destroyed in the ensuing battle between the candidates. The scene shifts to the First Step clan house, where a woman named Eva informs Krai about the destruction of the building. She also tells him that the Explorer Association wants to speak with him. Krai, unfazed, tries to push the responsibility for the pub's bill and the meeting onto Rodden. Eva, unimpressed, remarks that Krai relies on Rodden too much. Krai makes an excuse saying he doesn't want to go anywhere without an escort and mentions that his reversible face relic, which allows him to disguise himself by changing his face, is broken. Despite his attempts to avoid the situation, Krai realizes he has no choice and reluctantly agrees to attend the meeting. At the Explorer Association, Krai kneels in front of branch manager Gark, apologizing for his foolish actions. He pleads, promising it will never happen again, and tries to assure Gark by saying the pub owner is super nice and will surely forgive them. Gark's assistant steps forward and hands Krai a book, the job ledger for all explorers. Some jobs offer high pay, but come with high risk, while others are easier but less rewarding. Krai stands up, putting on his shoes and holding his coffee, remarking that picking a job will land him in a predicament. Gark tells him to choose a task for himself. Krai flips through the book, searching for an easy job he can pass off to Ark. Eventually, he finds a level 3 task and decides on a rescue mission. He informs Gark of his choice. Krai heads back home, where Tino greets him with the unfortunate news that Ark isn't around, which complicates things for him. Trying to distract him, Tino points to the ring on Krai's finger. Krai notices the ring, and Tino asks if she can keep it. Without much thought, Krai agrees. Krai then asks Tino if she's free now, to which she excitedly says yes. But when he mentions a quest, she immediately bolts. Krai quickly grabs his chain, which transforms into a living creature, catching Tino and dragging her back to him. Tino, frustrated, confesses that she had hoped for an ice cream date with him, but is now stuck with what she calls a crappy chore. She complains that, although she's level 4, she can't rescue 5 people alone. Krai, curious, asks why she's planning to go alone. Before she can answer, he introduces her to her new companions for the mission Rotuda, Greg and Gilbert. Together, they'll accompany her on the rescue mission. The scene flashes back 6 years. Krai and his friends stand outside the treasure hunter headquarters. Krai feels unsure, thinking he's a burden because he lacks real skills, while his friends are all incredibly talented. However, they brush off his worries and go inside anyway. A red-haired boy named Luke kicks the door open with flair, announcing, "I'm Luke, the best swordsman in the world," he brags. Then, a self-assured girl, Lismart, strides in, proclaiming to be the top thief around. Both are there to officially sign up as treasure hunters. As the group's leader, Krai, approaches the counter, the attendant greets him, handing over a form and asking for the party's name. Feeling anxious and fearing his friends will see him as unfit to lead, Krai glances at them before writing down the strangest name he can think of: Grieving Souls. Initially, his friends groan, calling the name terrible and tasteless. Spotting an opportunity, Krai tries to back out, labeling himself a lousy leader. To his surprise, his friends laugh and cheer, embracing the name. Their support boosts his confidence. Krai submits the form, and from that moment on, they are known as the Grieving Souls, with Krai Andrey as their leader. The scene shifts back to the present. Krai sits in a meeting with Ruda, Greg, and Gilbert, all stunned to see him leading the world's top clan. Greg smirks and calls him Thousand Trick, a name that impresses everyone. Krai clarifies that it's just a title, explaining that hunters who achieve a certain level of prestige earn special names from the association. Gilbert, however, remains doubtful, questioning Krai's strength. Tino, annoyed, expresses her frustration about working with Gilbert. Krai then asks the 3 of them to help Tino with her mission, but Gilbert, unimpressed and prideful, refuses to take orders from someone he considers weaker. He scoffs at the thought of Krai leading the most famous party in the world. Fed up with trying to convince Gilbert, Krai gives up and turns to Greg and Rahuda, who both agree to support Tino. Gilbert, still skeptical, questions his role in the mission. Unfazed, Krai tells him, "It's unfortunate, but you're free to sit this one out." He even suggests Tino take someone else from the clan. Tino, however, insists that Krai join them, but he declines, trusting Greg and Ruda to manage it. As Krai and Tino prepare to leave, Gilbert suddenly challenges them to a duel. If he loses, he'll join the mission, refusing to take orders from someone he views as weaker. Before Krai can reply, Tino steps forward. "I'll rain divine punishment upon you," she warns, ready to take him on herself. Before the duel starts, Tino demonstrates her flexibility to Krai, bending into various poses with ease, which annoys Gilbert. He makes it clear that after defeating Tino, Krai is next. Unfazed, Tino steps forward, calmly removing her sword and belt, getting ready to fight unarmed. Krai watches, thinking that while Tino and Gilbert are on the same skill level, Tino is the stronger fighter. However, the purgatorial sword Gilbert carries confuses him a bit. In a surprising move, Gilbert drops his sword, opting to fight without weapons. Krai thinks this is a foolish choice. As Tino stretches, she casually mentions that she'll be getting ice cream after the fight. Krai initially refuses her, but her cute, angry expression makes him agree. The fight begins. Tino swiftly leans in, landing a powerful blow that Gilbert barely dodges. In a flash, she spins and delivers a fierce kick to his face, sending him crashing into the wall. Gilbert quickly recovers and charges at her, but Tino traps him with her legs, locking him in a tight hold. Though Gilbert breaks free, he angrily calls out to Krai, but Tino expertly delivers a sharp strike to his neck, knocking him to the ground again. As he lies there, memories of his childhood flood his mind. He recalls his training to become a hunter, forming a party, and the pride he felt in his swift rise to power. He had always seen himself as one of the strongest, and now that belief is crumbling. Back in the present, Tino offers Gilbert the chance to use his sword, but he declines, realizing that if this were a real fight, he would have lost long ago. Krai steps in and reveals something shocking: he left his own party because of the huge power gap between him and his friends. This revelation leaves Gilbert speechless. Krai adds that a similar disparity exists in his current group, yet no one ever leaves. Gilbert suddenly understands Krai isn't the one who would be abandoned. Instead, he's the one ensuring no one gets left behind, his true strength lying in his mercy and leadership. Stunned, Gilbert now sees Krai as a phantom, a being far beyond his original perception. Krai casually steps forward, kicks Gilbert's sword aside, and unleashes an overwhelming burst of flame mana from the blade. The sheer intensity of the power leaves Gilbert in awe of Krai's effortless control. Gilbert finally comprehends the depth of Krai's abilities, recognizing him as a true monster in terms of strength. In this world, mana, the essence that powers everything, is invisible yet incredibly potent. Treasure vaults scattered throughout the land hold highly concentrated mana materials. These vaults have been studied for centuries but remain shrouded in mystery. One such vault is the White Wolf's Den, once home to a formidable wolf monster known as Silver Moon. The wolves were hunted to extinction for their prized fur, and in their wake, a treasure vault emerged, haunted by a blood-soaked wolf phantom. After reviewing Tino's mission, Krai explains to his assistant that it's a level 3 task, while their group operates at level 4. He then thanks EVA for the intel on Gilbert. Eva, curious, asks about the spectacle Krai caused earlier in the training hall with a relic. Krai confirms it, mentioning that Gilbert has even begun to wield a bit of mana. As Krai polishes his relic rings, he reflects on the joy he finds in collecting these powerful artifacts and the unique miracles they create. EVA notes that Krai has quite a few relics, but he assures her that each one has a special purpose. Suddenly, Krai remembers that he forgot to recharge one of his relics. He quickly heads to a couple who assist him with this task, thanking them as they express gratitude for Krai always saving them from phantoms. Yet Krai knows the truth. It's Eva and Ark who tackle those dangerous missions, not him. The husband then shares alarming news: a rogue phantom in the shape of a wolf has recently appeared on a northern road, wreaking havoc on a fully guarded caravan. As the wife finishes charging Krai's relic and hands it back to him, Krai remains confident that Tino, Greg, and Gilbert can handle it. However, the wife informs him that the level 5 party, led by Rudolph Devout, disappeared just days ago, leaving Krai visibly shaken. Upon hearing that Devout's party was sent on the same mission, Krai's concern deepens. When the husband asks where Tino was sent, Krai hesitantly admits he dispatched her to the White Wolf's Den. The couple is horrified. Sending a level 4 party to where a level 5 group vanished is alarming enough, but their shock deepens when Krai adds that Tino is also accompanied by 3 independent hunters. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, Krai quickly excuses himself, saying he has urgent matters to address. The scene shifts to Tino and her party navigating through a dense forest. She briefs them on the waiver they signed earlier, acknowledging the risks of the mission. Tino explains that the party formation is part of her master's plan. Greg, still reeling from the recent events, remarks that they barely met the day before. However, Gilbert starts connecting the dots, realizing that Krai knew why he had left his previous party. Tino continues, stating that her master, Krai, possesses vast knowledge and can easily predict their actions and thoughts. Greg agrees, commenting that even the incident at the pub was likely part of Krai's grand calculations. Despite the tension, Tino reassures them, insisting everything is according to her master's design. Meanwhile, Krai is back in his room, deeply troubled. It's too late to send a rescue team, and the thought weighs heavily on him. He approaches his bookshelf, pulls out a specific book, and reveals a hidden door behind it. Back in the forest, Tino's group is suddenly ambushed by a wolf, not an ordinary wolf, but one clad in armor and wielding a sword. The group realizes they're facing something far more dangerous than they anticipated. Tino, remaining calm, notes that Krai always manages to exceed her expectations. Cutting back to Krai, he's now in his relic vault room, searching for something to combat the wolf. His eyes land on a specific locker, and an idea sparks. He retrieves a collection of relics, gearing up for action. Just then, Eva enters and notices Krai's worry for Tino and her group. Krai tries to downplay it, but Eva spots Citri's slime clinging to his neck, which Krai quickly tries to hide. Without wasting any time, Krai steps out onto his balcony, Putting on a relic hoodie that transforms into a sleek aerodynamic jet, ready for action, he launches into the night sky. Eva watches with concern, realizing that the relic Krai is using, called the Night Hiker, is incredibly dangerous. It has no brakes or safety measures. We flash back to Krai's past, where he and his friends first visit the bustling capital of Zerbrudia. They're relaxing at a bar, swapping stories when Luke casually mentions his broken sword, calling it a divine sword like it's some sacred relic. Meanwhile, Lucia rolls her eyes, reminding everyone that they never expected to encounter a Cyclops in a level 1 treasure vault. Because, Cyclops are supposed to be level 4 monsters. A nearby drunk guy overhears, and thinking it's all a joke, laughs at their ridiculous tale. He warns them that if they ever truly saw a Cyclops, they'd better run for their lives. Cue Liz and Lucia, who both casually hold up a bag that captures the man's attention. He peeks inside in surprise. There's a Cyclops eyeball staring right back at him. The poor guy nearly jumps out of his skin. Meanwhile, Krai's internal monologue sighs note to self tell them to stop bringing body parts to bars. Cut to the present. Tino and her squad easily slice through a wolf-like enemy, though the entire team seems tense about hunting down the elusive fox. Greg asks Gilbert why he isn't using his sword's firepower, and Gilbert sheepishly admits the sword's out of mana. Turns out Krai used up the mana earlier, and Gilbert still doesn't know how to recharge it himself. Classic. Ruta and Greg suggest they fall back, but Tino's not having it. She orders them to stick to the plan, pointing out that they haven't found any bodies yet, which means the people they're searching for are probably still alive. Of course, she insists it's all part of the Master's plan, even the whole sword being out of mana situation. Determined, Tino leads the way deeper into the forest, where they soon spot more wolves at the White Wolf's den. But plot twist, these wolves are armed with bows and guns, because why not? Tino coolly notes that their oversized bodies probably make it hard for them to move inside the den, so they decide to lure the foxes out for a fight. Gilbert, ever eager, wants to charge in, but Tino halts him, calling him an idiot. She hatches a plan she and Ruta will lure the enemies out, while Gilbert and Greg hit them from behind. We cut to Krai, still out on his night hike, praying hard for Tino's survival, and let's be real, probably for his sanity too. Meanwhile, Tino and her crew are deep in battle, taking down the enemy foxes with ease. Tino, in all her confidence, credits their success to teamwork, something the enemy clearly lacks. But just as they're about to breathe easy, more foxes appear, and Greg and Ruta spring into action. As the fight unfolds, Tino reflects on her team. Greg, the seasoned strategist, coordinates like a champ. Gilbert, the big talker, may boast endlessly, but he's got the strength to back it up. And Ruta, while not flashy, has killer enemy detecting skills. Tino proudly proclaims that she calculated everything flawlessly, convinced that their master was right about everything. She's practically calling him a god now. Gilbert starts reminiscing about his past, recalling when he left his old team in a fit of rage. He once thought they were weak, but now he understands they were simply desperate. Slicing through a fox alongside Greg, Gilbert finally grasps the true value of teamwork. Growth moment unlocked. The crew pushes deeper into the den, eventually stumbling upon a massive chamber. Tino immediately senses something big, like boss level big. The others suggest retreating, but Tino, ever confident, reminds them they've come this far without a scratch. In her eyes, the boss is just another challenge waiting to be conquered. Noticing Greg's cautious demeanor, Tino drops some wisdom-safe missions don't lead to growth. Greg flashes back to his past when he used to shy away from enemies too tough to beat. That habit cost him dearly, including the lives of many friends. Tino reflects on how Master Krai knew Greg wanted to change, which is why he chose him for the team. The same goes for Gilbert. Tino, in full fangirl mode, again calls Krai a god and marvels at how their team was formed not by luck, but through careful planning. Ruta, curious, asks why she was chosen. Tino glances at Ruta and zeroes in on her impressive chest. Without missing a beat, she names that as the reason. Ruta, shocked and speechless, tries to process this revelation. They shake it off and keep moving deeper into the den, ready for whatever comes next. Meanwhile, Krai finally arrives at the den, but plot twist, his jet relic has no brakes. He careens into the cave, ricocheting off the walls like a pinball. Classic Krai. On the other side, Tino and her party face the den's final boss, a terrifying, super strong fox monster. Tino quickly realizes the boss isn't wearing a helmet-perfect target. Gilbert and Greg jump in to distract the boss, but in the chaos, the boss smashes Greg's sword to bits. Tino seizes the moment, running up the boss's arm and slicing its neck, taking it down. But not without a cost. Tino injures her leg during the attack. Ruta rushes over, worried, but Tino brushes it off, casually pouring a potion on her injury like it's no big deal. As Gilbert and Greg approach, Tino hands her sword to Greg, but just as he thanks her, a spear whizzes straight toward Tino. She dodges it with lightning reflexes. No time to celebrate though, more boss fox monsters arrive from the front cave, and these ones are packing even more weapons. To everyone's surprise, Tino shouts for them to run toward the nearest passage. But as they move, a boss fox blocks the exit. Greg and Gilbert step up, telling Tino and Ruta to escape while they act as bait. Tino suddenly remembers Krai's ring, which is actually a relic capable of firing a powerful laser attack. She tells the team to aim for the fox's eyes and signals for backup. As Greg and Gilbert keep the boss fox busy, Tino charges up the relic and fires a blast straight into the boss's eye. The fox writhes in agony, giving Gilbert a a chance to attack, but just as he steps forward, Tino yells for him to stop. Too late. The boss fox slams Gilbert into the cave wall. Dazed, Gilbert apologizes for not listening. Just when it seems like the team is doomed, a massive explosion sends the boss flying into the wall. Enter Krai, crash landing dramatically right on top of the boss. Tino's face flushes red. Krai's finally here. The remaining boss foxes freeze, terrified by his arrival, but the furious boss fox attempts to attack him anyway, only to find it impossible thanks to the relic ring on Krai's finger. Everyone is stunned, including the boss. Krai, ever the drama king, announces he only has 17 lives left as if that's normal. With a smug grin, he activates his relic ring and blasts the boss fox again. But to everyone's horror, the boss shrugs off the hit without a scratch. Krai experiences an internal mini-crisis, realizing the relic ring isn't as powerful as he thought. In a moment of desperation, he grabs a tube necklace from around his neck and hurls it at the boss. It detonates, filling the cave with thick fog. Krai orders everyone to retreat. As they scramble to escape, Tino struggles to keep up due to her earlier leg injury. While Krai is already wheezing from their short sprint, heroism is exhausting in the chaos. Tino flashes back to the first time she met Krai. She was young, and some rookies tried to capture her, but the legendary Grieving Soul swooped in to save the day, with Krai leading the charge. Ever since that moment, she's dreamed of joining them. Back in the present, Krai and the team finally make it out of the boss's lair. Krai pauses to compliment Tino before noticing her injured leg. He uses a relic to heal her wound. Greg, ever curious, asks how Krai plans to defeat the boss fox. To everyone's surprise, Krai admits that retreating was actually the best option. With that, he orders them all to head out, and they start their trek back through the den, wiser but definitely not in one piece. We flash back to Krai's past, where his friends are in awe of his impressive collection of relics. Liz reminds him of his promise to gift her one, and Citri notices a peculiar bag. Curious, he asks about it. Krai casually explains that it's a magical bag capable of holding an endless number of items, despite its small size. When his friends assume it must be incredibly valuable, Krai downplays it, clarifying that it's actually not worth much. Its only use is storing chocolates. Liz picks up a bracelet, but before Krai can say anything, she slips and tumbles. Krai calmly explains that the bracelet is a labyrinth ring known for distorting spatial perception. Next, Luke grabs a sword, only for it to suddenly take control of him. Krai reveals that it's a cursed blade, which drives its wielder to madness, compelling them to slaughter anyone in sight. Despite the dangers of these relics, Liz and Luke decide to use them for training, intrigued by their power. Cut to the present. Krai and his team trek through the endless expanse of the White Wolf Den. Everything looks the same, and the group grows increasingly disoriented. Krai observes the situation and reflects that while Tino and Ruda are expert thieves, they're not leading the group unaware. They've strayed far from the exit. Krai suspects that Tino is upset with him for dragging them into this mess. Gilbert breaks the silence, asking where they're heading. Krai stays quiet, but Tino jumps in, reassuring everyone that it's all part of the Master's plan, even though they've been walking away from the exit the whole time. Tino reveals she checked the map earlier, confirming that this route won't lead them out, much to Krai's surprise. Ruda then questions Krai, pointing out that while this might be part of their training, he should at least reveal their destination. Krai, still silent, realizes he doesn't know where they're going at all. Krai and his group come to a fork in the path, leaving Tino and the others in stunned silence. In awe, Tino calls Krai God again, insisting that Krai must have chosen this path for a reason. Without hesitation, they rush forward, leaving Krai perplexed. Moments later, they encounter a wounded level 5 party, abandoned and in dire need of help. Tino quickly hands out potions to the weakened members. The leader of the group, Rudolph Devout, introduces himself and expresses deep gratitude for their rescue. Tino directs the thanks to Krai, but Krai quickly brushes it off, insisting it was nothing more than a coincidence. Ruda, ever observant, notices that the potions aren't working and informs everyone that the party needs food. Without hesitation, Krai pulls out some chocolate from his magic bag and offers it to them. Tino, once again awestruck, calls Krai a god, to which Krai casually offers her another piece of chocolate. Gilbert raises a question, his curiosity piqued. While the wolves are powerful, they shouldn't have been able to overpower a level 5 party. Rudolph's answer sends a chill through the group. He explains that the real threat isn't the wolves but a phantom wearing a skull mask. The mention of this phantom causes a wave of unease to ripple through the group. Rudolph explains that this phantom might be the lingering curse of the Silver Moon. After the human extermination, the wolves' hatred grew in the treasure vault, eventually manifesting into a terrifying power. Despite being a level 5 party, they were helpless against this phantom, which Rudolph believes is as formidable as the Thousand Swords. Krai, lost in thought, recalls his friend Luke, a level 6 hunter and apprentice to the Sword Saint. Luke, a sword prodigy, could defeat any foe with just a wooden sword. If such a phantom existed, Krai believes Luke would have already taken it down. He then realizes Tino won't be able to handle this phantom alone. Rehuda interrupts his thoughts, asking what their next move should be. Krai, with a calm expression, appoints Tino as the leader of the mission, presenting it as a valuable experience for her. Tino steps up, confidently taking charge and leading the group toward the exit. Rudolph offers to act as a shield if the phantom reappears, giving them a chance to escape. Tino reassures him, saying there's no need to worry with Krai by their side. As they hear the wolves' roars echoing in the distance, Krai senses the wolves closing in. He checks his safety rings, counting only 5 left, one more death, and it's over for him. Worse, his shooting ring won't be enough to stop the impending onslaught. To his horror, he realizes the sword relic he had tied to his waist is missing. His mind races as the gravity of the situation sets in. This could very well be the end. Krai contemplates his options, knowing time is running out. Tino, hiding behind Krai, suddenly warns him that something immense is approaching. Krai considers using his Night Hiker relic, planning to turn himself into a human missile for a surprise attack on the Phantom regardless of the cost to his own life. But before he can act, Tino clings to him, panicked, and begs him to protect them from the Phantoms. Just then, the first Phantom is sent crashing into a cave wall by an overwhelming kick. Krai instantly recognizes the familiar power behind the blow. Liz emerges, removing her mask, and hands Krai the sword he dropped earlier. She teases him for worrying her, revealing she had learned that Krai ventured into the treasure vault without warning. Liz then turns to Tino, scolding her for letting a pile of trash remain untouched. Gilbert tries to intervene, but Liz swiftly strikes him with a powerful blow, sending him crashing into a wall. Enraged, she snaps at him for interrupting her. She then turns back to Tino, her voice harsh as she questions whether Tino is incompetent or simply lacks ambition. Liz warns her that if she doesn't improve, she'll soon be despised by everyone. As Liz chastises Tino, the Phantom rises again, but stops in its tracks, unnerved by Liz's ferocity. Krai quickly steps in, praising Tino for handling the mission well, which helps to calm Liz down a little. Tino, tears streaming down her face, apologizes profusely, but Liz seems somewhat satisfied with Krai's praise. Before they can even catch their breath, a massive wolf wielding a gun appears, opening fire. But Liz, completely composed, slows time around her, effortlessly catching every bullet in midair. As the dust settles, the group is stunned to see Liz has arranged the bullets into a neat pattern on the ground. Fuming, Liz scolds Tino again, mocking her for being frightened by such a slow Phantom. Without hesitation, Liz leaps into the air, slicing through the giant wolf's chest with a single powerful kick, killing it instantly. As the Phantom swings its sword at her, Liz effortlessly halts the attack with one hand and slams the Phantom into the ground with a crushing blow. She continues her tirade, demanding Tino improve 100-fold, causing the apprentice to burst into tears. With minimal effort, Liz finishes off the Phantom. Krai, in awe, tells Liz to calm down, marveling at her unparalleled speed. He realizes that Liz is so fast she doesn't even leave a shadow behind, which is why she's known as the Stifled Shadow. Liz smiles and hugs Krai, who warmly welcomes her back. At the Grieving Soul's house, Garfield announces that he's decided to rejoin his old party, vowing that one day he'll be able to catch bullets like Liz. His proclamation is met with doubt as everyone believes it's impossible. Tino, however, warns Gilbert about something from 6 years ago when Krai had accidentally ordered their masks without eye holes, leaving Liz's true power hidden. At the time, she had been fighting nearly blind due to the design of the mask. In a flashback, we see Citri, the sharp mind of the Grieving Souls, handing Krai a mysterious slime capsule. With a serious tone, she warns him release it, and it could decimate the entire capital. Krai's jaw drops, and even EVA, standing beside him, nervously steps back, clearly not wanting to be near whatever danger the capsule might hold. Back in the present, Krai can't shake the uneasy feeling gnawing at him. He searched his entire room, but the slime is nowhere to be found. Sitting back, he retraces his steps, replaying the events in his mind. He recalls opening the capsule once in the White Wolf's den, only to find it empty. Every other time, it had been securely locked away. Slowly, it dawns on him the capsule was empty all along. He lets out a nervous laugh, feeling a small relief, but then a new worry creeps in. We shift to the White Wolf's den, where a team is on a mission to investigate the recent Phantom sightings anomalies threatening the entire region. The country values this treasure trove dearly, so the pressure is on. Meanwhile, Krai, sleepless from worrying about the dangerous slime, steps outside for a breather. Eva finds him and relays that the association is demanding a full report on the White Wolf's Den incident. Krai directs her to Tino, the mission leader, but Eva informs him that Tino is busy training with Liz. With no other option, Krai heads to the training room, only to find a crowd gathered. Inside, Krai meets Sven Anger, a level 6 hunter, who warns him that if he doesn't intervene, Tino might not survive Liz's brutal lesson. Krai hesitates but steels himself, walking into the room. He finds Tino sprawled on the floor as Liz mocks her for her weakness. Just as Liz prepares to land a final blow, Krai steps in, asking for a break on Tino's behalf, citing her exhaustion. Annoyed but compliant, Liz agrees, until Tino, to everyone's surprise, grabs Liz's leg and insists she can continue. Krai watches in shock as Tino's intense, mask-like expression locks in place. Liz, thrilled by the sudden turn, resumes the training with even more fervor. Krai slips out quietly, apologizing to the onlookers as the session ramps up once more. Krai takes a break with Sven at a nearby coffee shop, where Sven fills him in on the latest news. Multiple Phantoms have been sighted in the dens, and a Night Order party was recently wiped out. Krai suspects this is the real reason Gark is demanding a report on their last mission. He wonders why Ark, who's both stronger and more capable, hasn't shown up yet, hoping he'll arrive soon. Krai then suggests Sven focus on the association's missions instead of training and tells him to let Gark know he'll be unavailable for a while. As Krai gets up to leave, Sven's teammate questions why Krai rarely ventures out while his team faces the danger. Sven, chuckling, explains that Krai isn't quite what he seems, calling him a monster in his own right. At the Explorer Association, Gark receives a report confirming that the White Wolf's den activities remain unchanged. He mutters to himself about the need to speak directly with Krai, but his assistant informs him that Krai is unavailable. Determined to get answers, Gark decides to meet Krai in person, eager to witness the situation firsthand. Meanwhile, in the capital's research department, an elderly researcher is approached by a group of mysterious young operatives. They warn him it's time to relocate, the association is closing in on their base. The old man, however, is more focused on his latest discovery, a tube capable of storing immense amounts of mana, enabling them to create treasure vaults at will. When questioned about Sophia, the one responsible for their defense, he reassures them that she is on leave granted with his permission. Ordering the team to continue their investigation, they melt into the shadows, leaving him to his work. Krai finds himself standing in the midst of chaos, the capital in ruins, destroyed by the very slime he feared. The destruction reaches its peak, and just as he's overcome by the devastation, he jolts awake. It was all a dream. But the shock doesn't end there. Liz is lying next to him, her habit of sneaking into his bed catching him off guard once again. She casually asks if he's free today, and Krai, hoping she'll be busy training Tino, tries to dodge her plans. Liz, however, insists it's their day off, leaving Krai with little choice but to go along. Later, Gark arrives at the Grieving Soul's house, determined to meet Krai directly. When he asks for Krai, Liz interjects, claiming he's busy. Frustrated by the lack of a mission report, Gark starts scolding, but Liz, unfazed, fires back. The exchange escalates quickly, and soon Liz charges at Gark. He blocks her attack effortlessly. As they clash, Krai discreetly slips away with Gark's assistant, Kana, heading upstairs to discuss the White Wolf's den. Krai reports that nothing unusual has happened there, but the sounds of battle from below suggest Liz isn't backing down anytime soon. Downstairs, Gark's massive punches shake the hall, while Liz treats the fight like a casual sparring match, taunting him to train harder. Eventually, Krai steps in, calming Gark and diffusing the situation. Liz, ignoring Gark, wraps her arms around Krai in a sudden hug, leaving Gark quietly stewing with determination to improve. Not long after, Evia walks in, stunned by the wreckage in the hall. Outside, Liz drags Krai along on a shopping trip. As they walk, Krai mentions the White Wolf's boss, but Liz sheepishly admits she doesn't remember them. Her nonchalance only heightens Krai's worries about the slime's destructive potential. His thoughts are interrupted when Liz thrusts her shopping bags into his hands and grabs a man nearby, accusing him of staring. Krai steps in, allowing the man to escape. However, the man is no ordinary passerby. Back at his hideout, he breathes heavily, shaken by how close he came to being discovered. Thanks for joining me on this adventure. If you enjoyed the journey, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more epic content. Let me know what you think in the comments, and don't miss out on the next video. There's always more fun, surprises, and challenges ahead. Until next time, stay awesome and keep exploring.